Hi, my name is Trish. I'm the Youth Development Director at the Casco Bay branch of the YMCA of Southern Maine. Today I'm sitting outside on a stone wall on our property, kind of in a forest, and it's just so peaceful and quiet, but I got thinking about all of these rocks on the stone wall, and I don't know if you can see behind me. The stone wall goes as far as you can see that direction, and it goes as far as you can see in that direction. And at one point, it's even a double stone wall, so there's a little space in between. But I got thinking about all the rocks that I was looking at, and it reminded me of this really fun story called Ricky, the Rock That Couldn't Roll. And this story is written by Miletsky. Let's find out what happens to Ricky. Over the lake and out past the bay was a green grassy hill where the rocks came to play. They would race to the top to take in the view, then roll their way down the way rocks love to do. They look pretty happy rolling down the hill. There were Kip, Pip, and Chester, and Marvin the boulder. Ignatius played too, though he was much older. And a group called the Pebbles never ever sat still, zigzagging their way up and over the hill. You can see the big boulder, see all the little pebbles. Kai was a meteorite and not from this planet, and Maya was lava, but taken for granite. Stu was the smart one, Parker the clown, and grumpy old Ebert rolled round with a frown. Gabby was sassy, Lisi had flair, Emma was giggly, and Hud had black hair. Have you ever seen a rock with hair? Maybe that's like moss, right? Sometimes you see rocks with moss on them or little plants growing out of them. But the one trait that seemed to be shared by them all was that every rock there was shaped like a ball. And because they were round, they could easily roll through the grass, past the lake, up and over the knoll. Except for poor Ricky, who quietly sat. You see, Rick couldn't roll because one side was flat. I keep looking over to the side because I have a little chipmunk playing in the rocks by me. His friends didn't get it. "Come roll," they would chant. So Ricky tried, but replied, "I'm sorry, I can't." There's Ricky right here. He's just sitting there with his flat side, not able to roll. But the rocks were determined. They were sure they could solve Ricky's flat-sided problem and help him revolve. So Marvin the boulder, with his impressive physique, carried Rick all the way to the grassy hill peak. Then he pushed him downhill, yelling, "Keep rolling, kid!" But Rick didn't roll. He just kind of slid. And there's Ricky saying, "I think this is a bad idea." Well, the rocks weren't done, not by a mile. Surely this next try would get Rick to smile. They stuck rubber balls all over Rick, using big gobs of glue to get them to stick. They were proud of themselves. "This will work," they announced. But Ricky still couldn't roll. Now he just sort of bounced. Well, they pushed and they pulled, trying every which way to get Rick to roll. But by the end of the day, nothing had worked just like Rick expected, and he ended up feeling depressed and dejected. "It's no use," Ricky sighed. "There just isn't a way, so I'll sit off to the side and watch you all play." There he is, looking kind of sad, wishing that he could play with all the other rocks. But his friends wouldn't quit. "We're here for you, brother, and we'll get you to roll one way or another." So they pondered the thought, each straining his brain, till they looked up and saw it was starting to rain. And that's when it hit the smart stone named Stu. "Eureka!" he shouted. "I know just what to do." He explained to them how they would get Rick to tumble. "My plan is pure genius." Stu wasn't too humble. There they all are. They're looking excited, but does Ricky look excited? I don't know. he still looks a little doubtful. I think he feels like he can't do this. So they carried our hero down the road about a mile to the lake where they gathered up mud they could pile on the flat side of Rick, creating a mound that they shaped, smoothed, and sculpted until it was round. Then after the rain with the sun in the sky, they left him to bake till the mud was all dry. They gathered up vines and one colorful feather that they wrapped all around Rick to keep it together. There he is. He's got mud baked on and string and a feather. What do you think, guys? Is this gonna work? When the last knot was tied and the work was all done, the only step left was for Rick to have fun. They stood back and watched, feeling nervous and tense, as Rick breathed in deep with increasing suspense. He moved slowly at first, testing out his new mold, and then, for the first time, Ricky the Rock rolled! Hooray! His friends helped him. So Bria the ladybug, who'd been there from the start, felt a surge of pure joy swell up in her heart. She thought as she watched her friends play on the hill that there's always a way if there's also a will. And she said to herself as Ricky rolled down the slope, when you're surrounded by love, you always have hope. And that is what Ricky had. He had all those friends that loved him so much that they helped him. And that is the end. So Ricky the Rock that couldn't roll, a really fun story, and a story that reminds us that we need to be a friend to others, and we need to let others be a friend to us and to help us. So thanks for joining me today, guys.